right, cool. So there's no format, so we're just in the house. Episode what? 4?
7, but technically
4. Episode 4 in the building. Shout out to my man Nico. This podcast is sponsored by
5.
Rich Print Shop.
Got the fresh gear.
Yeah, made that T-shirt. You know what I mean? Made that T-shirt for us. We've been talking about. I think that's his first sale he's made in the state of New Hampshire. Even though we didn't buy it from him, but technically he'll take it, dude. In the building, hit him up. Rich Print Shop on Instagram.
What's your Insta?
No, it's just Rich Print Shop.
Just richprintshop.com. So we got a guest in the building, my man. How am I gonna introduce this dude? Quick story. So, oh man, so years ago, I get a call from Justin, and he's all intense, and I love when Justin gets intense in his beliefs. So he's like, "Hey, listen, we got this guy coming in. I talked to Fred. You got to meet him tonight at the office to do an intake. But I talked to Fred, and apparently he's like this crazy dude. He's just like in prison, like fucking we're
Clearing out blocks,
clearing out whole blocks, and he's just like everybody I talk to is scared of him, and like I guess Fred don't want him to come here, and Fred was a manager at the time, and he paints this picture to completely terrify me. He's like, but I had a conversation with him, and I'm gonna be honest, Chris, I like him. I like him.
I did like him.
But he'll be there at 7, so let me know how it goes. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Good luck.
So this big dude walks into the room, and I'm there by myself, and it's a very intimidating situation. You know what I mean? I don't have my rape whistle on me. I don't have I don't have any protection. I'm just thinking like, Jesus, man. I'm like 165 pounds. This dude's 220, and my first interaction with them, it's crazy. That whole saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover," and just because someone can squash your head with the palm of their hand doesn't mean they will or they want to. You know, and
I just want to fix your hair.
That's it. You know what I mean? And so I had a conversation with him, and I had the same impression that you did, Justin. I liked him, and then we fast forward. I think it was like 2 weeks later. We go to Mount Monadnock. We went on a men's spiritual retreat, and we ended up hiking a mountain together. And it went from like, I like this dude to that's my guy, man. By the end of it, we were taking selfies together. Like fucking, I genuinely loved you. That like instant connection, and I'm be honest, I feel I love you to death, and you tell me that you love me, and I love that you love me, because it makes me want to pick fights with people because you're my friend. You know what I mean? It makes me want to just start fucking butt, dude. You know what I mean? Just start stepping the motherfuckers. But you're not even about that. That's the thing.
But you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love knowing that. I love knowing that. Makes me feel safe. But my man Eric Labage from Starting Point Sober Living, my man doing the damn thing. My close friend, Justin's close friend. Not so much Chris.
Chris who?
Yeah, right?
Oh, let me clarify something real quick before we get going. So I've been getting shit like, why are you're so mean to Chris? You're so mean to Chris on the podcast, people. And so like now we're going into that role like people are starting to feel like he's the victim, like people are feeling bad. So it's like what people don't understand. Let me clarify. He's a fucking antagonist. He does talk shit. But he wears this role on this podcast like, oh, he's just this victim. Like, oh, I get bullied.
I'm bullied.
Yeah, and now it's like backfiring. So from now on, I'm just gonna say nothing but nice things about you.
So if you were Howard Stern, would he be like Gary?
Yeah.
I'm the Gary.
Gary.
Shout out Liv, who stood up for me.
Oh, my wife's cousin was like, I love the podcast, but
You're a bully.
yeah, why does he bully Chris? And now people are feeling bad, which is gonna make them love him even more. And I'm done with it, dude. Your pants are very nice.
Thank you.
Those are good pleats in your pants, dude. And I think you really look handsome with that hat.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So on this podcast, Eric, just so you know, we're just a couple couple dudes in a room, you know what I mean, shooting the shit. It's all about inspiration. It's about recovery. It's about all that good shit, which you are an inspiration, man. And I talked about starting point sober living, and like you're a beast in the community. And I love that because we go from this point of like, when I met you, everybody telling me not to fuck with you and to be terrified of you, to like, you're a guy that's out there like doing amazing things for the recovery community. Like you're an entrepreneur, you're grinding. Like I've watched you take multiple risks in recovery to like start your own businesses. You did the damn thing with construction. Now you're very successful in the recovery housing. And like, not only do you have a good a recovery housing program, but it's a good program because you're a man of principles. And you instill that within your houses, and you're out there grinding, doing the damn thing. And that's inspiring. And that's like why I want to do this shit, this podcast, because there's another dudes out there somewhere that people are telling people not to fuck with.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And we were all at one point that guy.
I don't know about me, but
you're always, everybody's always confused that you were an addict. Yeah, you're just so clean cut and fucking. But you're truly like all of us in this room. But I mean, especially you, because those stories that they told us were actually true. You know what I mean? We had every reason.
Yeah, they were real.
yeah, no, it was incredible.
Yeah.
So those stories are true. So all the phone calls that I was getting of people scared that he was coming, they were true. You know, people were legitimately scared of him because he was that guy. But I brought him, funny story, I brought him to a commitment when like he had like 9 months, I think it was. And I brought him to like this upscale treatment center. It's like pretty high end, you know? So you got soccer moms in there. And you got like school teachers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got the upper echelon of addicts. And he goes in there, dude, and he just like tells like his drug-a-log.
Yeah.
Dude, like talks about shanking people, bats, you know what I mean? Guns in the face. I had to stick it in his mouth. Like, dude, it was literally for like an hour. It was like an A&E special. It was literally like an A&E special. Everybody was just like this. They were like, yeah. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I was just like, but dude, it was amazing. It was like, It was incredible to listen to because you were just like, this is unbelievable. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know if anybody actually stayed clean from that. I think they were all scared to death and were like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
you remember that?
I do. Who's the kid that you were sponsoring too that was there with us?
Oh, who was that? Who
The
came
tall
with
kid
us?
there.
Was it Johnny?
I think so.
Yeah,
Every
Johnny
time I
came
see
with
him,
us.
he's like, this dude. And I'm like, never lived that one down.
It was Johnny, and Johnny's like a pretty serious kid himself.
yeah, there's levels to this shit though.
Yeah, yo, for real.
Yeah.
So,
But you wouldn't know from that story and all that you're a deeply spiritual man.
Absolutely,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like you're the type of dude that likes to go inward. You're about transformation and evolution of like yourself as a human being, not allowing your past to define like who you are today and who you're aspiring to be. You know, there's an acceptance of like that's where you were once at, but there's also like a responsibility that we have to take for ourselves to take us to where we want to go. And you're one of those people that like embrace that change. You know, I've watched you put in a lot of work. And my favorite thing about you is that you embrace your defects that you still struggle with. And we've had a lot of like really personal conversations, and even in meetings I've heard you share, and like you don't sugarcoat shit, and that's what this is. This is a process of change. And Justin always says it's in time, that these changes happen in time.
Yeah.
And watching you like become who you are today and doing the things that you do, like your process gets me to be in touch with my process. You know what I mean? Because like to see it's a lot easier to see the miracle of like recovery, and when we surrender to this, like take place in other people's lives. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's sometimes hard to see it for ourselves because we get so consumed in like everything that's happening in life and like what's going on. But like I've just really enjoyed watching you and like watching you go through this change. It's been dope to watch. And I know you didn't want to come on this podcast and you get fucking the big scary man gets nervous too.
I do. I get shook up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky for you, you didn't realize we invited you to just listen to Chris and I, because we actually don't shut up, the two of us.
I mean,
So we invite
that's
people
perfect.
on, but then they actually don't get to say anything because we don't stop talking. So
True.
Oh, that's the thing. If you leave one gap of fucking airtime, we're taking it. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's like you gotta.
Exactly.
It's like double dutch. The fucking. It's the you gotta get in there and start fucking going at it. You can't just. You can't just wait.
Gotta keep up.
so
let's get into. I mean, there's like a lot of like I know you and Justin connect a lot on like spirituality and stuff like that. But your influences, because you can get us to start to talk about some different topics while we're on this podcast, because we don't ever come in here prepared. We just fucking freestyle flow. And so like there obviously was a point in time that you started to, I know you talked to me before about in prison, you started to read a lot of books and you started to become inspired and you started to want to like learn about these other parts of like yourself and all this stuff. So what were some of your inspirations and things like that, books that might have started to like break open a little bit of the change?
Yeah, sure. So my addiction obviously kept putting me back in prison, and it was just an endless cycle, and it hurt. It hurt every time they closed the fucking doors on me. And it was the same process. Like, what am I gonna do now? And along my line, along my path, this book came into my way. And I had always read in books, but the Four Noble Truths had the biggest impact on my life. And I was so dependent on that book. And I was so used to the process of like violating parole or catching a new charge and going back. And I had a buddy who was doing like a life bid in the library. And as soon as I hit, R&D, I would fill out a request slip and I would get that book, and he knew. They all did. Oh, Labarge is back. Boom. They'd send me the book. And and what that did was I was going through, I was grieving. I was grieving my family. I was grieving my kid. I was grieving the loss, because basically I just died, and everybody in my life died. And I had to like grab a hold of that. And the only way I could do it is by letting go of attachment. And that's what the Four Noble Truths was about.
Yeah.
There's pain and suffering in the world, and like you have to, you got to embrace it. And in my situation, I had to embrace it. I had no choice. It was there. There's no getting out of it. And that book helped me through some really tough times. And meditation, I'd end up doing, stits and shoe, and the shoe is a special housing unit, which is like the hole. And you want to talk about like really getting down to your core person and like breaking down to like your weakest form mentally, throw you in a cell for 30 days by yourself, no human contact.
Jeez.
And it makes or breaks you. It makes or breaks you. And you get to like send away for books in the library. And it's kind of like my experience with knowledge through books and information is it's almost the same experience that I had in recovery, right? You got, I always say, when I hit the street, I want to hang around with the people, the big boys on the block. When I went to prison, I want to hang around with the toughest kids in the joint. And the same thing. When I hit recovery, I wanted to hang out with people who had their shit together, who were in depth, the intellect that we share, in this room alone. Those are the people I wanted to be around. And we shared books, like Robert Greene wrote a series of, kind of books on how to conquer the fucking world. Machiavelli, the Prince, all these books with this information on how to be stronger mentally, like I absorbed, because, part of my story is like I was a victim. I was a victim for a long time. I was beat for the first half of my life, and some really bad shit happened to me. And one day I woke up and I was like, no more. Nobody's ever going to put their fucking hands on me again. And part of that was when I went to prison, there's always somebody tougher, bigger, and stronger. And you had to be right here. You had to have the mental game to withstand, your surroundings. So I spent endless time like reading these books, like literally had notebooks and just writing down notes, like things that really stuck to me that I wanted to hold on to for principles to protect myself and be mentally stronger than the next person. And it's funny how it worked out, though, because then I come home and, you know, I guess if you look back in your life, you see why things happen the way they did. And that was just one of those things that happened the way it did. And then I made the connection to Justin. And then that kind of like brought me to where I'm at now.
Awesome.
So didn't you go through like a school of Napoleon Hill? Didn't they have like teachings of a course of Napoleon Hill? I'm fascinated by this because Napoleon Hill, in my mind, is, you know, the inventor of self-help, essentially. That's what he's credited with. And they used to teach his teachings, which I'm a huge Napoleon Hill student, I would say. They used to teach a course of his in prison.
So, yeah, I did this program called Summer House Program, and it was this new cutting-edge program that they were bringing into the prisons, and it was a model program from, I don't know, another state, not even close to around here on the other side of the country, and New Hampshire State Prison modeled that program, and they had it was a modified shock, and part of the modified shock was, one, it was like a prison, a military boot camp where you stood on line, they you know, they fucked all your shit up and threw it on the floor, and they had these dudes that woke you up, and they screamed in your face, and they did all that shit, and I gotta be honest with you, I hated it, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Like, I had a lot of people in the service.
I would have fainted.
I had a lot of family in the service. I had a lot of family that were in the service, and like I always wanted to be in the Marines.
Yep.
And you know, I got in trouble real young, and obviously that got wiped out, and you know, I didn't mind it. And but anyways, part of that shock program was that modified shock was it was a course called PMA, which was positive mental attitude. And it was Napoleon Hill. Yeah,
wow,
it's based on
gangster.
Yeah, no, the Napoleon Hill, the book Think and Grow Rich was the first book that I ever read by Napoleon Hill, and I talk about the subconscious mind, the chemical laboratory in which all thought impulses pass through, does not make distinction between positive or negative thoughts. It just takes the information that we feed it and brings it into the external world. And that was the premise essentially of what the law of attraction is. And I believe in that. I believe in it's important for us to be in a state of awareness of what we're feeding the mental.
Absolutely.
You know, like that's why like we're all very similar in this room where we seek out inspiration, not only just from the meetings and stuff like that. That's why like a lot of people, when they're just like, oh, I only go to meetings and that's enough. Like for me, it's not enough because like I can't, sometimes I could go in a meeting and I'm not filled. I need something in the negative. Sometimes I can sit in a meeting. It's just everybody negativity, stuff like that. And I start to wear it. It's like the white glove effect.
Yeah.
If you wear a white glove throughout the whole day, of course, when you come home, it's going to be dirty. So I got to make sure I do some things to like clean that up. And I seek out, like I was listening to a motivational video earlier, and it said something that was that stuck with me. There's always something that sticks with you, and it was like, don't compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not to who someone else is today.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love that, and I just gave myself goosebumps. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, it's not my saying, but it impacted me because we can get so consumed in like the external, right? And so consumed on what other people are doing or how they're doing, or we measure ourselves to whomever or whatever. But when you remove yourself from that and you just start to measure yourself against yourself, like, am I in a state of improvement? Am I trying to be better than I was, or am I inactive in production? You know what I mean? Like for me, when I'm honest with myself, like right now, I know I'm dieting, but I ain't working out. You know what I mean? Like fuck it. I got a gym that I made in my basement, and everybody's bitching in quarantine that they can't go to the gym, and I got one downstairs, and I put the caution tape on it myself and quarantined myself from it. You know what I mean? Like that's how fucking lazy I am. And I know that it's physical, mental, and spiritual, and eventually we have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And like that's something for me that like I'm being neglectful in this. There's a lot of times we have to self-evaluate and stuff like that, and then seek out the stuff that's going to inspire us to make the change. Because I always say, if you're waiting for yourself to give yourself permission to do these things that you know that you require in order to be the ultimate, like that's probably not going to come. We have flashes and glimmers of like self-motivation, but it can fade out quick. Like we light up like a match real big and then fade out. We need like the people around us, that connection component, or some sort of an influence to get into the psyche.
It's mastermind. One of the other things that Napoleon Hill taught was masterminding and groups of people coming together in the collective consciousness, collective intelligence, collective energy. I mean, at the end of the day, if you think about it, everything's energy. So if you walk into a meeting and there's just too many negative people in the meeting, the negative energy can overtake the meeting. Even though our purpose is a message of hope, which is positive energy, positive thinking, you need enough people in the meeting to be carrying that message. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. And in masterminding, it talks about the collective of like positive energy, though. So it talks about the collective of all, full belief, full knowledge, full support, full love. These things aren't easy. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy for a group of felons, you know what I mean? You walk into a meeting, you've got a bunch of people who have lived in darkness for a long time. At this point, the point is in the meeting to live in the light, to live in love, to live in the spiritual essence. Like, and I agree with you, that everybody knows, everybody who's been sitting on this panel here, we've lived in darkness. We've been there. That's where we came from. And the program's the opposite of that, of trying to go live in the light, but when you've lived in the darkness.
I too used to run the prison block, bro. I too, bro.
Okay.
You know what they called me in the jails?
What?
Bam Bam. Because they see me coming, I'd be like, bam, bam.
That was because your dance moves. You were like,
Yeah,
bam, bam, popping and locking.
Bam, bam.
I never went to prison though, but if I did, I would.
That'd be the name.
Yeah, I would have fainted. Just like if I did the military thing, I would have fainted. The second someone yell at me, I'd be like, or I would have pretended like. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
So, but when you live in the darkness, it's like if you just shut off all the lights in here and sat in here for days and days and days, and then you flipped on the lights, you'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The light, you know what I mean? You'd resist the light. But at the end of the day, the light is what you need. So, and I'm getting a little, deep spiritually here, but
Get deep, brother.
but it's the truth. It's like, and we resist it because we're taught to resist it. I feel like it's not something that, you're not taught to be like a loving, caring being. You're taught that's weak.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here with that shit.
Yeah.
But the truth is that that's you were talking about, actually you said something about you get broken down to your weakest point. But did you find that when you were in your weakest point, you went into deep states of meditation, you actually found your strength?
I mean, it depends on what point you're talking about, but yeah. Like I was weak, but when I found meditation inside the walls, it was because there was nothing left. There was nothing left at that empty one moment. Like I said, either it overcame you and it ruled you, or you got a hold of it. And let me give you an example. So I think I was going here before. Somehow I got sidetracked, but when I was in prison, so every morning they would give you an option to take a shower at like 5 a.m. And they would come by and go shower. And if you didn't jump up or you weren't at that fucking door, you weren't getting a shower for the day. So you're up there, you flag them, you go in. Well, what happens is that one cop's doing, I don't know, I think there's 6 other tiers in the building. So he does a round. Well, when you hit the shower, they lock you in the door. There's no place to sit. There's all these little flies coming out of the drain. Oh. And it's probably like 120 degrees in there after the shower because it's this metal box with concrete and it's sweating, dripping on you. It's like the most uncomfortable thing. It's like something out of a movie in Nam. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're in this camp and you literally have to be mentally tough or it's going to break you. So you sit there for like, I don't know, sometimes you can sit there almost a couple hours just sweating, bugs flying on you, dripping, water torture.
Again, I'd faint.
And, that's where meditation really kicked in for me. I was able to harness my mind. I use a lot of focus points. So I'll find a point on the wall, and I do this when I'm in the gym or I'm jogging or something that's going to require me to like really be mentally tough and be self. I find focus points. Like I've always done it. Like I'll just pick a spot on the wall. It could be a stain. It could be a chunk of sheetrock missing. Whatever that is, I hold on to that and I focus and I lose myself in it. And like I said, I started learning that stuff through like reading books. Like I think my first real introduction to Buddhism was the book Siddhartha. And I was fascinated by, you know, his path and all the different, all the different paths that he went down as his journey in life. You know, it started here, it took him there, he went here, and in the end, he became who he was, which is, you know, pretty complicated, simple being. And that was kind of what had happened to me. Like, you know, even like going to court, you get in a van with a bunch of guys, you cuff to a bunch of people. You have to be mentally tough. You have to go somewhere for that.
Yeah.
And, you know, amongst the people that I was with, like, weak people talk too much. So if you're in the back of the van and you're one of those people that's just trying to talk and be friends with people, like, you're weak, you know? So I remember just sitting in the back of the van, just wanting, like, thinking, like, shut the fuck up. I don't know you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not your friend. Like, don't talk to me. And I would just, like, literally, my body language would say, don't fucking talk to me. So if you asked me a question, I'd make it a quick, and then I would just look away, and I would just do my thing. I would just look, and I would focus, and I would lose myself in that, because it was a long day of sitting in concrete cells, getting transferred around, handcuffs, like very uncomfortable, uncomfortable. And you have to go somewhere. You have to go somewhere mentally. And even the guys that go through it on a regular basis probably don't even realize what they're doing, how strong mentally they really are. Or maybe they do. I don't know.
So what do you think for like what? Because it's like it's a narrative that we have to break, right? And like I'm sure your narrative, it took some time because we developed these narratives that we live by, and we live to them as if they're truths, right?
Yeah.
And they become a part of our life and our everyday. And I see a lot of people that stay prisoners to those narratives, and their life is a direct reflection of that, and they're their own roadblock towards getting to the life that they maybe didn't even know that they wanted or that they could attain, you know. And we start the development of narratives from youth, you know, from childhood. I mean, me and Justin talked about that a couple days ago. You know, it's instilled in you sometimes at an early age, like what a man looks like. Oh, just work hard, shut up, don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about. And then there's stuff that you learn from like peers, like that are instilled in you. Don't people that talk too much are weak, which means we're the fucking weakest bitches.
That's what I was thinking about. That's what I was thinking about when you said that. I'm like, oh man.
No, not in that sense though.
No, actually, Chris is the toughest person in this room right now. Yeah.
I'm just soaking it all.
Justin would actually be pretty tough, because if you don't know Justin and you sit next to him, he's not like, hey, how you doing? You don't like make conversation with people. Like, you know, the people who are making conversation feel uncomfortable. It's like a sign of fear. It's trying to connect.
No, for sure.
But it goes to the ideology. Let's just break this down for a sec, because I need to. It goes to the ideology of survival of the strongest.
Yeah.
Survival of the strongest breeds fear.
Sure.
Think about it. Survival of the strongest breeds fear. If we're trying to get to a spiritual level, which I think is a higher vibration personally, then love and not acting that way is actually more difficult. It's more difficult for me. It's much easier for me to just sit here quiet and not say hello to somebody than to say, hey, how you doing? Because hey, how you doing introduces getting fucking rejected.
Yeah, exposing yourself.
You know what I mean? Or being weak.
I guess it just depends on the environment that you're in.
Well, no, it does. And obviously prison isn't like the most fucking loving, caring, light environment. That's not why you're there. It's because you entered the darkness. And so, you know, and I'm not, at the end of the day, the darkness leads you to the light is my opinion.
Oh, listen, yeah, it can get it.
Or you can stay in darkness. I mean, at the end of the day, if you get used to darkness, it's easy to just stay there. Because even what you were talking about with the knowledge, I was thinking that knowledge in and of itself will not inhibit change. So you can read as many books as you want to, unless you start to take some action to, internalize that knowledge. Because think about it. You read all these books, and so you have this knowledge in your head, but the flip is I got to do the right thing. And the second that you start to deviate from what you used to do and do the right thing, you got to start to incorporate some different beliefs. You got to start to incorporate some faith that I do X, Y, and Z and something's going to be okay. Because if I do X, Y, and Z, it incorporates a new belief system of faith. Because otherwise you revert back to your old behaviors that you're comfortable with. I do X and Y and Z because it keeps me fucking safe.
Yeah.
But safe is I'm back in fucking prison. Safe is I'm fucking using drugs again. Safe is whatever it is for you. I'm fucking ordering too much shit off Amazon. Whatever it is. You know what I mean? But for me, it's like the new belief systems incorporate some action that makes me uncomfortable. Share how you feel. Wicked uncomfortable. Don't like it. Have to do it.
Yeah.
I guess, no, you're totally right. One of the biggest things for me to change when I came and started hanging out with you guys and got into like NA down in Massachusetts and around these guys was identification. So when I got around these guys like Chris, who just consistently was like, I'm fucking uncomfortable. I need to get uncomfortable. These descriptive words of actually what you're going through was not only like a shocker to me, because I'm like, wow, we don't fucking talk like this.
Yeah.
But I felt it. That's what I was going through. And it made sense. Like I needed to hear that shit that I was going through to make sense. Because to be honest with you, you guys know me. I was uncomfortable. Like if I didn't know you, like I wasn't, I give you the respect of a handshake and hey, how you doing? But like, I didn't know no other way. Crazy part about all this is like, now that I've been away from it so long and I've changed as a person, I can confidently say that I have friends that are getting out and I watch what they go through and it's painful. It's really fucking painful. And it brings some shit on me because then I'm like, I feel vulnerable because all I hear about is how I changed. And, it makes me feel weak. Like it makes me question who I am now because I'm like, oh, fuck, am I that dude? Like, do I have to watch what I say now? It's a difficult process.
Yeah. And that brings me back to like, so it was what I wanted to talk to you about was the process of unraveling the narratives. And a lot of people struggle with that, especially guys from the prisons, right?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, because what you have to, in order to get to a place where we can move past these things, there's a level of vulnerability and uncomfortability that goes against every code and ethic that you're taught, especially in prison, right? Because I've sponsored a lot of guys in prison, and it's like they'll talk to me. Nobody else. I'm like, that's this. I'm never gonna. Yeah, dude. It's like fucking.
I did it with Justin. Justin was he's still my sponsor, but
no, for sure. But that's like a lot of pressure on one here. They're like, they're fucking bugging out, like fucking, like they trust, like you get one shot, and then like you have to field every phone call and and to try to get them to open up, like, oh, why don't you make some? Nah, fuck that. I don't trust nobody. I don't fucking. You're there, and it's like I always feel honored that they trust me and stuff like that. But we know that the more that we can connect in the community, there's power and strength in numbers, and it's about the development of that. But like, to get past these narratives that we paint for ourselves and that these truths, man, like, what are you giving to guys coming from prison for advice, or what is what do you offer? Like, how do you handle it? You know what I mean? Because I know like how to, because I don't have experience with prison. You know what I mean? Like my father was in prison 10 years and he stayed true to that narrative up until the day that he passed away. It was like embedded in him. You know what I mean? Like I used to talk to him. He struggled with alcoholism. And I was telling him about going to meetings. He's like, meetings are for pussies. You know what I mean? Like, fucking, you got to be strong. You got to be strong-minded.
Every guy that I deal with, every one of them.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do a meeting.
No. It's so. What is your? How the fuck did you handle this guy? What did you do?
It's because at the end of the day,
I did do it with you. Like
Yeah.
I remember you calling me on my
Dude,
shit.
he
like,
didn't want to come to the fucking retreat we're talking about. And I just had to confront him about it because we invited him in, right? You went and met him, but I heard he was going to like kill people in the houses and shit.
Yeah.
And so I invite him to this men's spiritual retreat. But why we connected is because instantly, I'm going to tell you why we connected. He humbly asked me for help and we spiritually connected in that moment because he was being true to himself, admitting weakness and asking for help. And in doing that, I connected with him instantly. And then we shared about having some spiritual belief systems that aligned because he had read all these books in prison that I had read also. And ultimately, I was just open with who I was to him. And as a result, we connected spiritually because when you can humbly be yourself with somebody else, trust is instantly established. And it's normally there's a fucking dance with people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can I trust you? Can I trust you? Like, let me fucking introduce this fucking mask and see what you think. Let me introduce this mask. And we didn't have that. We just instantly fucking were real with each other because it was a fucking moment of, weakness at the end of the day for you. You were in fucking trouble. You needed some fucking help. And I offered my hand. And what happened actually was, I think what you respected about me was I got a million phone calls about how he was like a cold-blooded killer and people didn't want to fucking have him in the house and they were scared of him. And I called them back and I was honest with them about it. And I said, listen, dude, I got a bunch of phone calls from people that said that you're fucking dangerous and all this other stuff and they're scared of you. And I need a commitment from you that like, you're not going to put your hands on anybody and that nothing like that's going to happen. I want to help you, but I need to know that you want to help yourself. And he said, I get that. And I appreciate that. And that's what established our bond, to be honest. I think that I was willing to fucking call him up and just be man enough to say, this is what people are saying. And I need to be honest with you about how I'm processing it and how I'm feeling about it. And I want to, you know what I mean? I want to help you. But like in order to do that, so it's so interesting because if you're just honest, if you just start to fucking connect on a spiritual level, trust is instantly established. But we're not fucking taught to connect on a spiritual level. We're taught to do dances and feel people out and fucking this mask, that mask, you know what I mean? And as a result of that, it inhibits trust, I would say. Because prison mentality isn't all fucking bad. You end up forming fucking families.
Yeah,
you know what I
do,
mean?
For sure.
Families of people that you fully trust your life with.
Here's the thing too, like throughout my journey at that point in my life, like if you noticed, I wasn't shocked by people saying that shit about me, but it sucks. It sucks. And part of my story is that I had done a crime and had like a really big amount of money, like a lot of fucking money. And I remember just wanting to be with somebody. I just wanted to be around somebody. And how about at that point in my life, nobody wanted me around. My closest friends, I called a few of them. They're like, I got kids, man. I can't have you at my house. I just got to be honest with you right now. And my first instinct was like, fuck that motherfucker. And then I'm like, ouch, I'm alone. And not only was I alone, like I was alone. Like nobody, I reached that point in my life that nobody wanted me around. Because for one, I was a fucking vicious addict. And two, I was mentally unstable. Like I was mentally unstable. I was hallucinating. I was in a real bad place. And at that one point, like it's that point that every addict reaches, right? That point of complete desperation. You're fucking broke across the board. I don't care how fucking tough you are. I don't care who you are. You're broke. And everybody gets to that point. Like even, I don't care, the toughest guys in the prison, I know because I ran with all of them. And we all hit that point, that dope sick point. Bro, I'm sick. I'm hurting. Help me. Right. And the problem was like, I had reached that point where I knew that's what people thought of me. And it was a really lonely place to be. It wasn't a cool spot. I don't care. It's cool in the movies or whatever the fuck people idolize and rap songs and shit, but it's not a fucking cool place to be. It's not.
Dude, it's what we're
It's
taught.
a fucking lonely, sad place to be.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And that humbled me. And it humbled me. And, the problem is, like, to answer your question, and after we said these couple things, like, it kind of brought me to a different understanding, is that I can help these guys when they come out because they see what I've done, and everybody wants a better life. I always say when they close the fucking prison door on me and it's slammed, I didn't daydream about being fucking John Gotti. You know what I daydreamed about? Having a house, having kids, and having a good job, and like having like a good life. That's what I fantasized about. That's what I missed. I missed my fucking family. I didn't think about how I missed the big score. Like, yeah, that shit's cool in the fucking movies, but reality, that's, I mean, maybe there's a few people out there that do it, you know? But when that door closed and I was by myself looking at the ceiling going, what the fuck did I do again? Like, those are the things that I missed. Those are the daydreams that I had. And the problem is, when you're at your weakest point and you're fucking broke, it's really easy to ask for help. It's really easy to follow somebody's path. But once you get good again, once you get the job and your health comes back and the parole officer's not breathing down your neck and you got some space, the old you comes back because that's what you know, that's what you're comfortable with. And then those friends come back.
Do you still talk to your PO? I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, he was so scared to cut you off.
Yeah, I've been like shook this whole time.
Bro, what the fuck?
You hear?
Do you is this okay? Is this fun?
Is the shoe a punishment? No, I mean, do you still talk to your PO? Like, do you have to check in and everything, or are you like, you're good to go, you're done?
Oh shit, I was done in 17?
What the fuck does he say to you? Because,
Dude, I gotta be honest with you. I think I'm probably the one that made it out of like, I don't know, so many.
Wow.
So many. So they, you know, I'm really cool with the parole department.
I mean,
And it's probably, you know, it's good that I say that to some people.
yeah. I mean,
So I had a buddy, I'll answer your question. So I had a buddy that got out, and I've been in the system so fucking long. I've watched people come from CEOs to like, you know, captains. Like I've watched people's whole careers go.
Yeah.
Our careers started at the same time. Let's put it that way. They got brass and I got fucking clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I own sober houses. They got brass.
That's
And,
incredible.
Yeah.
But this is the secondary part of that, because here's the struggle though. You got these guys that come from prison, maybe guys that you're in prison with. I always have a lot of friends that will come. They decide to get clean. I want to help them out, or just anybody, and then to explain like, all right, this because ultimately there's a toll we must pay in order for us to create this life that's sustainable, right? And that toll is going inward, turning inward, go within or go without. Justin always says that. So it comes with the level of uncomfortability and vulnerability, and it comes with trust and the connection, so we can begin the process of like self-exposure, honesty, to like break down these narratives so that we can get closer and closer to our true self. And everybody comes with that philosophy. Nah, I got this, my buddy got me a union job, or I got this construction job that my girl I got, and you go into like panic mode because so many people are telling you how they're going to do it. And it's like watching a movie. You already know the ending while someone's trying to convince you that.
I've heard you say it before. It's powerful.
But it breaks my heart. And I'm not even saying like, oh, you have to go to meetings. But it's a combination of multiple things. There's multiple pathways, but it all comes with a certain set of action, right? Like we talk about Carl Jung, Carl Jung, and even him back in the day, as far as addiction, he said as far as he could tell, the pathway from addiction, the clearest path to getting through addiction is community connection and spiritual awakening.
Sure.
And that was like well before Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff like that. That was before Narcotics Anonymous. And like that's the thing, right? A community, the importance of a community, because there's the opportunity for connection. Connection gives us the opportunity for honesty, and the spiritual awakening is what, Justin?
What's that?
What is the spiritual awakening? You always
Change your perspective.
change of perspective.
Literally, just a change of perspective. It's literally just seeing something in a different light. Seeing something in a different light.
It's a bunch of different stuff.
It is, but it's literally just it's just a change of perspective. It's not, it doesn't have to be, people think that it's like this crazy thing, and it's just seeing something in a new light. It's seeing something that living this way is not the way.
Yeah, change your perspective, change your reality.
Yeah, exactly. Change your perspective, change your reality, observer effect.
And multiple times, I've had so many spiritual awakenings over the course of the past 15 years, and these new births of these these parts of me that I didn't even know were in existence. Like the way the inner observer speaks to me, the way it speaks to all of us. Think of your life now as it looks today, and what you're aspiring to become, and what you're trying to achieve. And then think of like 10 years ago. I always put it in perspective like that. That's how I know the profound effect of like what I'm doing. Of what I'm doing is actually working, because I think of the boy that started out in this journey, like that, the mask that I was wearing, and what my level of willingness was, and how much fear controlled every dynamic of my fucking life, from my relationships I had, the women that were in my life, my relationships for the jobs that I took, for every area of my life, fear controlled and dictated my every fucking action. And I was living to such a false narrative. It was like I was in my own movie, but I wasn't the star. I was a fucking extra on the side of the road that got like ran over by a car in like the first 5 minutes. Like I didn't even get to be the star in my own movie. I wasn't a part of nothing like that I actually enjoyed. It was like this hollow, fucked up feeling internally, all while feeling alone in rooms full of people, always feeling like I was never seen, you know what I mean? And terrified if anybody ever knew the truth about me. You know, if anybody could ever hear what my mind tells me, or the self-perception, or everything that I went through. And it was just such a fucked up place, and thinking that that's how it was going to always be, right?
Yeah.
That this is just what it was. And that's why so many people, I feel like, that is why, without going inward, turning inward, it's so fucking hard, especially in recovery, to stay clean, because we're haunted by these false narratives internally. And it's the way the disease, and this is how I was explaining it to guys. It's that voice in your head when you're randomly, like the sun shining and you get in your car, today is going to be a good day. And it's that random thought that comes through, and it's like, hey, piece of shit, remember this fucked up thing from however the fuck long ago?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, cool. Have a nice day. And you're just like, oh, fuck. It just like completely removes you from the now. You can't be present in the moment. It's instant projection into the past, feeling all the negative emotion that ties into it, and then into the future with the insecurities of what's to come. And like, that's just like, that's why this stuff needs to be addressed. That's why it's the requirement, like Young said, like the community, the connections. We can have a spiritual awakening, a change in the way that we perceive ourselves first, learning how to practice self-love. Think of that fucking concept.
Sure.
Self-love, self-forgiveness.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
What's
forgive.
that?
You could fucking slap me right now and I could forgive you tomorrow, but I still struggle forgiving myself for so much that I've done wrong in my life, right? And that's why I require human to human connection. You know,
There's
that's
still things I got to re-forgive myself for. Like, really? Like, they
I'm
come
with
back
you.
up and I have to like do it all over again.
absolutely.
You have to do it all over again.
But that is the process of this, right?
But it's a healing process. At the end of the day, you start to learn things about yourself, that you have wounds. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't do anything. And like, the reason I did what I did when I was using and hurt everybody around me is because I was scared, and I learned these belief systems to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what gave me relief. At the end of the day, it gave me relief.
Well
and
said.
so
Well said.
it's just mistaught. We're just mistaught is the truth of the matter. And even when we get into recovery, we're still operating on misteachings. Like we've talked about, it's an internal process, but instinctually you say, get a job, get a girlfriend, get a car, and I'm good.
Yeah.
You're not good. You're gonna get high again. If those things worked, everybody would just get it. Everybody I know in recovery who gets clean gets a job. Guess what? It doesn't. Everybody relapse. You know, the majority of people relapse.
Yeah.
The majority of people relapse because it's an inward process. But the inward process literally starts to ask the question of the meaning of life. Like that's literally what recovery is driving you towards. What is the meaning of life? What are you doing here? What is your path and purpose? It's a deep question that humankind is struggling with. At the end of the day, addiction is just a microcosm of mankind's struggle of what are we doing here? And the beautiful thing about recovery that I would say is that it starts to have you ask those questions, and it gets you in touch with path and purpose, and it starts to get you in touch with yourself. And before you know it, you become this person. I was listening to something about Carl Jung the other day, just knowing that you have the power or source or whatever you want to call it within you, tapping into that. The second that you do, your outlook on life changes.
Yeah.
Not only your outlook, but literally the energetic force to create things in life changes. So once you understand that you have the power within to do whatever you want, all of a sudden everything changes. But what we do is we look outside ourselves for that power. Oh, if I just get this. Oh, if I just get that. Oh, if I just get that. You're not tapping into your power. You're actually looking outside and draining your power. You know what I mean? Since you're looking outside, you're actually empty within.
Yeah.
But when you look within to the outside, all of a sudden you're the creator. You can create whatever you want. It gets really deep, but that's what recovery is teaching us to do. Recovery is teaching us to live from within, and it's
Well, it's not, well, that, and we have to at some point, and this is the thing, because any call to action, like anytime our spirit calls out, whether it's when we're in our darkest points, we ask for help, or at any point people go through midlife crises. People, like, I know, like my brother turned 30, 31, and he's at, like, that was for me when I turned 30. It was like, oh shit, like I gotta like figure my whole life out now.
Yep.
Like in that panic, you know what I mean? And we go to these, like, we get these like calls to action or calls to something, and it's an internal motivation, right? And I call it like the spirit calling out for change, a new spiritual awakening. But with that, there has to be an understanding of where you're currently at. I call it the self-audit. We have to understand, like, what are our struggles? What are our barriers? And like, especially in recovery, my first thing when I'll sit people down or I'll talk to people is because I already know what a lot of people, because I did it, right? I fucked up everything you could possibly fuck up multiple times. We all have in this room. But to break it down, like, you come from an internal motivation. Something inside of you said, I can no longer think and feel the way that I think. I desire change in this current moment. So I'm internally driven. And then we make a declaration for change, and then our minds present to us how we're going to change. And it comes with some external fixes, right? It says, all right, I got it. Even though it's internally driven, meaning that you don't want to feel and think the way that you want to feel no more. So now our heads will quickly provide us the fastest solution to relief from the way that we're feeling in that current moment. Yep. And so we'll seek that out. Maybe it comes geographical change. Maybe it comes in like, oh, I need more money. I need more this. I need more that. And I break it down like this. Let's start from the internal motivation. Why were we internally motivated? What were the things that we were struggling with internally? People will go depression. Well, for me, when I began my journey, I had vanity issues, body dysmorphia. I had fucking negative self-talk. I hated my fucking teeth. I hated my face. I used to brush my teeth with the lights out because I didn't want to see myself in the mirror. I had skinny guy complex, like fucking, which I required all these this validation, like, from other people, because I could never make myself feel good. So I required you to say something good about me to make me feel good. Sure. And we write this laundry list of all these things on a board, and then I circle it, right? So we're holding all this in internally, and then I say, so you're about to present this. So this is what I would always present myself. All right, Chris, here's the deal. This is what we're going to do. Right. So this is what we're carrying. This is the internal motivation. This is all the stuff we're suffering from. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get into a relationship, and I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to get an apartment, and I'm going to get the muscles. I'm going to get on all the steroids.
All will be well.
And I'll be fine. And what I would do is I get on a ton of juice, shitty juice. So I'd break out in back knee. Yeah. Which, true story, I got on a ton of tests. And I got a ton of back knee, and then my hair started to fall out. I had to get it. So I ended up not wanting to take my shirt off because my back knee was so bad, and not wanting to take my hat off because all my hair fell out, dude. But I was fucking jaked and more insecure and more depressed in a relationship that I hated. But that's how my mind will present itself, like, as a solution. So all I did was bring a fucked up, insecure, negative self-talk and depressed, anxiety-ridden into a relationship, put them on juice, pumped up his fucking energy levels. Now I'm even more into. So, and how many
and what's
times?
The way out of that? What's the way out of that? Think about this. What's the way out of that? What's the solution?
You want me to?
Yeah, no. What's the solution though? Tell me what the solution to that problem was for you.
Well, so where I went wrong, why I ended up in that place?
No. But I know you went to that place. How'd you get out of that place? How did you get out of that place? How did I get out of that place? How do you get out of that place?
I finally began the process of telling the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Honesty. Just honestly talking about who we are and what's going on with us and our darkness, embracing the shadow self. All of a sudden, by embracing the shadow self, your true truth will come.
It's only until we understand the depths of our darkness can we understand the light that is required to get us to where it is that we want to go. But we have to acknowledge and understand the darkness first.
Exactly.
And you say the darkness and the light.
The darkness and the light, but the darkness leads you to the light. So by embracing your darkness, you'll get to your light. It's like this. But we are not taught to embrace our darkness. Mankind does not teach you to share honestly and openly where you're struggling in life.
Yeah.
They do not teach you to do this. But it literally is the solution. It is the solution. And I'm telling you, with 22 years in recovery, I still need to share honestly the darkness. I am still compelled to look outside myself. Mm-hmm. It never goes away. There's always a piece of me that wants to be a little more jacked, that wants to be a little more this or a little more that. But it's why I share honestly, consistently what's going on with me. It's why I digest all kinds of information from all of these teachers consistently. Because really, I'm trying to ditch every belief system that's been taught to me my whole life and live by a new one. And even in recovery, you can get stuck in these belief systems of, oh, look at this guy. He's got more clean time. He's got a house. He's got a car. He's got this. He's got that. And we're not always even teaching it properly. That literally and don't get me wrong. You know, there's a guy that I know in recovery that says, you know, if you don't want your material things,
I'll take them.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I'll take them.
I'll take them too.
It's so easy to get on this trip of like, it doesn't matter.
It goes without saying.
Yeah, without saying, you know, but
10 years ago, it took them.
Yeah, no, like literally, like,
right
hey,
now.
Hey, what size are those?
Yeah,
my
my
size.
As long as they took it to your face, it was all right. It was normal.
You don't want your Jeep, I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know?
Matter of fact, get out.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, my Durango. So I got my Durango.
Yeah, hey, that's my Durango now.
So
sign that.
Yeah.
But it's just the consistent. But if we're sitting here and you start to get honest about your darkness, guess what? We all identify.
Yeah.
You too?
Yeah.
You too.
heard,
So then it opens us up to us all, you know, exposing our darkness. And in doing that, we all identify because it's all a piece of us. We're able to trust, get comfortable, simmer in. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden we can just be ourselves. It's not fucking about, nobody gives a fuck who's driving what in this room right now. It does not matter. Do you know what I mean? It literally has zero, but we're just driven to act like it matters in every other minute of our life when we're not being real. We're not just able to feel comfortable being ourselves, you know? And so here's the dilemma. How do we do that? How do we just go internal? And I do think it starts with trust and connection.
Yeah.
You know, surrounding yourself with people who you can just be yourself and be honest and share honestly and know. Because here's the funny thing is that people see the good in you. They don't see the negative in you. That's all negative rhetoric that you created in your head. Yeah. It's the people who like can just see the good in you and believe in you. And those are the people you got to find. You got to find the people that believe in you, that just believe in you wholeheartedly. And it's not everybody. Some haters out there. There's some people that want to tell you what to do and feed their ego on like, you know what I mean? Just do exactly what I tell you because I know best. No. You know best. Yep. You know, you have the right answers for you in you. And if you've made a mistake, it's probably because you were supposed to make that mistake to learn about yourself. But you got to find people who will believe in you and say, yeah, man, you made that mistake. Why? What is it? You know what I mean? But again, these people are not just everybody.
But the importance and Eric, you're about to say something. And Chris, I think you've said 6 words this whole podcast.
You know, listen, I was told.
Welcome to our podcast. I apologize.
Perfect. I was told.
Can you edit him out of this?
I was told sometimes you go to meetings to hear a message. Sometimes you go to carry a message. And I think this is one where I'm taking it all in.
I think this is just one of those conversations like as you're speaking and we're going into this thing that we usually always do. And if you took the mics away, we have these fucking conversations.
Oh, the same
all
conversation.
the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
That's why I wanted you on here.
But all I keep thinking about is years ago, I heard Eric Spofford say, "You have to let the old you die before the new one can live."
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And I held that. So throughout my recovery, like every, walking my path, God, my higher power, has constantly thrown me things that I've had to grab and hold on to, and I've held on to them. Like I remember reading a book, in a couple of these sayings that came through was one of them was it's one of my favorite ones is just like the weak man can do push-ups, the same principles apply to your spirit and your mind. And God, is that true?
Yeah.
You have to reinforce good things. It's like what we talk about all the time. You have to eat good, healthy food for nutrition to be big and strong. Like it's the same thing mentally. So throughout my whole journey, like I've come to a point where I decided, like, am I going to feed my mind a bunch of shit, or am I going to feed it good nutrition and food?
Yeah.
Am I going to eat protein? Or am I going to eat my vegetables? And I did. And I chose who I surrounded myself with, and I walked this journey. And throughout that journey, like I discovered all those things. And I think what it really all sums down to is you have to walk your path.
Yeah.
And you get to choose. You make those choices by who you surround yourself with. Because by all means, if I went and hung around with the dudes that I did time with, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be here right now. But instead, I chose to hang around with a bunch of guys in a fucking NA room in a church in NA who talked about how fucked up and sick they were, but how they wanted to be better and how they wanted to be good people.
Yep.
Because I don't care who you are. I heard it. I wish I could remember right now where I heard it, but every person inherently wants to be good.
Yep.
I don't believe that anybody in this world walks this path and wants to be a bad person. I don't care who you are.
I had something happen the other day, and it actually made me think about this. Think about when you're driving and you see an animal. Everybody swerves. Nobody wants to kill another living being.
No.
Yeah.
Everybody swerves at the detriment of their own life. People crash and die because they're trying not to hit the beaver.
Yeah.
But our instinctually,
Like 6 things just ran through my head at that one moment.
I guess.
Everybody wants to hit the beaver, dude. I'll just say and get it out of the way.
I literally avoided hitting a beaver the other day.
I don't know if this is PG. Like, we're going pretty nasty.
It's whatever we want it to be.
You never swear from the beam.
That was
I literally swear.
your new nickname on this show is Justin Bieber.
The beam.
The Beebs.
Never swear for the beam.
Oh shit.
So anyways, back to the point. All right. I'm awkward. All right.
That's why I love you.
I thought I had
bless you.
static in my headphones, but it was you fucking laughing.
I'm
Swear from the
sorry.
beam.
Never.
There was a deep spiritual message
That was.
in that too.
Oh, we got it.
Yeah, no, we got it, dude.
So,
Landed. The eagle has landed. The beaver has landed.
Oh Jesus.
Thinking about beavers now.
Oh, you said Bieber, right?
Bieber, that's what he said.
Yeah.
The beam.
Yeah, the
The
beavers.
Beebs. But so what we were talking about earlier, it's a willingness and allowing yourself to give you permission to yourself to feel stupid or to look stupid, right?
Sure.
And it's a look stupid to who? It's to your own self. And it's that sense of like walking through that fear because that's where the vulnerability comes. It's like I'd rather as a man be in a gym and walk up to a machine and I'm like, how do I do it? And there's a jacked guy next to me that's working out, but my pride I'll risk fucking killing myself on this machine instead of going up to the dude that was just on it and being like, how do I
Everybody's got to start
The
somewhere.
deadliest of sins, pride.
pride? You know
Thing
what I
that's
mean?
taught in our society over and over and over. Proud member of Narcotics Anonymous.
Proud member of something. You know what I mean? And it's when we get past that and we allow ourselves to be in that state of vulnerability, that's where the
Did you ever see a professional athlete or a professional fighter? And sometimes they'll do interviews, or sometimes they'll show them at the rawest form. Do you know what that is? When they're being taught and trained. So when I used to train, my teacher would tell me, like, the worst people you could teach are the ones that know everything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear every time I go to show you how some fucking guy taught you something 10 years ago. I don't give a fuck. I don't.
Yeah.
I care about what I'm supposed to teach you and move on. So I don't want to hear it. Like, just stop.
Yeah.
Like, that stuck with me, because there's nothing worse than trying to learn something with somebody or teach something to somebody that knows everything.
Yeah.
You have to be vulnerable, and you just got to stop and like let it play out.
And not be so locked into whatever your belief system is. I brought this up before. It's like always go into any and all conversations under the assumption you may learn something, and allow yourself to be open-minded enough to change your mind.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission, right? We don't always have to. It's like everything's got to be like we're concrete in our belief system. You know what I mean? We're
taught that,
concrete.
yeah.
You know, but when you allow, like for me, I'm not a religious person by any means, but I'm spiritual in nature. But I love the Bible. I love the stories out of the Bible. Like I'm reading a book about Jesus right now. There's stories
Amazing
in the
story.
Bible that like impact me profoundly. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to say like I think I'm Greek Orthodox.
Yeah,
I've been
you
to
are.
church twice.
Hey, you said it all, I think.
Yeah. They hum the fucking Bible in Greek. I don't even know what they're saying. I don't even speak Greek. You know what I mean? I'm not like but I believe in God. I have a different relationship with God. I have a gentle, loving, and caring God. I don't have my perception of what I believe is open-minded.
Punishing.
I don't have a punishing
Yeah.
God. You know what I mean? And then I don't take the Bible in the sense of literal, but I take like the stories as like profound. You know what I mean? Like there's one of my favorite stories in the Bible that I always bring up is like where Jesus was on the boat with I believe it was Peter, and it was in the midst of the storm,
Mm-hmm.
and Peter got scared and he thought he was gonna die and all this stuff, and Jesus was telling him to have faith and to be calm, and Peter was just freaking out, wasn't listening to him, and then all of a sudden Jesus walked off the boat and onto the water, was walking on water, and then Peter looks at him and Jesus calls to him to walk on the water, and he takes 3 steps and he's walking on the water, and then all of a sudden he looks down and he falls under, he starts to drown, and then Jesus puts his hand in the water, pulls him up. He's like, "Why did you let me fall?" He said, "Why did you look away?" You know, and it's like that for me. I take that in mind as like a belief system where we get this belief in ourselves, and we're doing it and we're doing it and doing it, and then sometimes we realize that we're doing it, and then that scares us, and then we start to second guess and doubt, and we start to become overwhelmed, and we look away. You know what I mean? And we allow ourselves to drown, and we get ourselves back to that state of faith, right? I say, and we've been, especially in business, there's many times that it gets dark. It's not, you can't
Hell yeah.
you can't be soft and try to be an entrepreneur, because it's not all like coast is clear, everything's gonna be hunky-dory. It's like, no, you're gonna fucking shit your pants a few times and like be fucking terrified, and like you're gonna be rattled. And
Have you ever come up with a business plan and like everything makes sense? It all falls into place. So you can literally go start this fucking thing, and you know it's gonna run. You're so confident. You sleep and wake up and go, "What the fuck was I thinking? How do I even get back to that point where I was at there mentally?"
Yeah.
You ever done that?
of course,
I've done it recently. I woke up the other day and I was like, "I'm gonna buy a house. Like, I'm gonna do it.
Yep.
I can do it. I got the credit. I'm gonna do it." And everything played out. And I was like, "All right, I just need this. I need these couple small things. I can do it, no problem." The next morning I woke up and I was like, "What were you doing? Like that? You can't do that."
a new mindset.
I'm gonna rent.
Yeah. But and that's that energy. That's why we require people, right? Because
right.
you can and you
That's
will.
right.
Of course you can.
And it's 100%. But we that's why I require people, because I alone, like, and you know, when I look away, when instead of it turns from a we thing into a me thing, because I know that I alone, but sometimes I start to perceive like, look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's first off, it's not me. It's God. It's the people
exactly.
around me. It's the universe, whatever you want to call it. But I alone, history says Chris alone doing Chris's best thinking doesn't look so great.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, it's a competition compared to cooperation.
Yep.
We live in a society of competition, but when you can understand it as cooperation, the strength is in cooperation, knowing that you're supported, knowing that you have people, knowing even what you were talking about with like the black and white view systems, it's like understand all or understand nothing in my mind. Do you know what I mean? And you get black and white. That doesn't mean you need to believe in all, but understand all.
Because it's not this and that. No, it's not this or that.
It's this and that.
Yeah.
And everything that exists in this world exists because it's supposed to. It's all connected. I believe this. I believe the universe has a bigger code that we can't comprehend, that we don't understand. But if you start to interpret it with an open mind to try to understand all things, then that doesn't mean you need to believe in all things. I'm not saying you need to believe in all things, but just understand all things. And if you can understand all things, then it comes with a level of do you know what I mean? It keeps you in an open state of mind. It keeps you in unlimited possibility. It keeps your mindset in not this like negative view, because if you believe in just one thing, then it can be combated by something else. And so you can lose faith. You can lose.
It's also what gives us the opportunity to have someone like Eric in here, starting point sober living. We're rise above sober living.
Yeah.
And we're not this or that.
Yeah.
It's like
It's not a competition. It's
Matt Gannum,
cooperation.
episode 1, Banyan Treatment Center. You know, we have the Process Recovery Center. Matt's my close friend. I wish for his success. I help in any way that you're my close friend. I wish for your success and I'll help in any way. I'm going to put your logo. Nico's going to do some dope editing shit he just learned how to do. Your shit's going to be plugged all over this thing. And I want you to succeed. Yeah. And then you live in a place of love but it's very easy. You see people can turn that mindset into this or that.
So few people understand the fundamentals of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And what it is.
I've realized that.
We all know because we've been doing this for years. And we all understand the fundamentals of that mentality of thinking, which is the more you give, the more you receive.
Absolutely.
It's the law of attraction.
Yep.
It's a law of attraction.
Well, because you're living in abundance, you're not living in lack. Think about it. It's like when you live in lack, you're never going to have enough. It's the observer effect. It's quantum physics, the observer effect. People need to understand this because it's a very, very important thing. So quantum physics has proven that they can measure a ray of light, right? And it's the law of duality. They can measure a ray of light. If you're observing it to see light, it comes back as light. If you're observing it to see particle, it comes back as particle, even though they're two completely separate things. So what that's telling you is that what you're observing, what you're looking for, you're getting back. That's what that test is. That's quantum physics. That's what science is teaching us. So think about this a little bit deeper. If you're looking for lack, you're going to get lack back. If you're looking for abundance, you're going to get abundance back. Yeah. If you're looking for the positive solution to happen, that's what you're going to get. If you're looking for the negative solution to happen, that's what's coming. Yeah. And it's proven over and over and over. And so here's the dilemma. How do we just live in pure abundance? How do we live in pure, that's why I need to feed myself this information consistently, because I just default back to lack. I default back to fear. You know what I mean? Oh my God, competitiveness. Because we're taught all these things. It's misteachings. Mankind, to
a certain extent, though, it's really who you are.
Yeah.
Obviously we're intellectual people. We get off on this, but it could be a totally different group of people who are into cars. Yeah. And they could sit around talking about pistons and the way this fires and the more torque you can get. And then you have people that just want to know what makes the world go round.
Of course.
It's really just who we are and what we feed ourselves.
Oh, for sure. But even the guys that are about cars, are they in cooperation or competition? It's one or the other. You know what I mean? It's literally one or the other. If you think about it, it's fear or it's love. It's cooperation, love, or it's fear, competition.
Yeah. We're the people though that stay up at night thinking about that.
I think, dude, I literally lose sleep over these things. And some of these things I've just come to realize recently in the last 6 months.
Yeah,
it's like holy shit, But this is the process of recovery. This is what we're doing. This is the contemplative journey of what's my understanding.
And for me and like you, we understand that with this action that you take, and the deeper you go and the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn what you're capable of, right? It's like the more, because I've already showed myself that by proving I've shattered what I thought I was capable of fucking 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've blown my own mind on, and that comes with work. That comes with the more people I surround myself with that tell me like, you can. That helped me change the dialogue from which I speak to myself, right? You're in a process of that now, and you'll only gain more and more confidence as you move forward, as will I, right? And then it opens up these new levels internally to what you believe is attainable, which is like, that makes life so much more fucking interesting, right? Because we go from a state of mind that's settling, right? And comfortability based off of fear, based off of like a belief system or narrative that we've lived true to. Oh, I'm a convicted felon. Oh no, all this shit. I'll never be able to sit at the table with these type of people. Banks will never give me loans. Fucking people won't sell me. All this shit. Even I bought my first home 2 years ago, and I never dreamed that was a possibility for me, because I told myself for so long a narrative was like, I'll never have the credit. So fear kept me away from like looking at my fucked up credit. I didn't realize that credit is something that you can actually fix if you work on it, which I learned real quick how to fix your credit.
Sure.
And like once you fix your credit, you can go to banks. You know what I mean? And you can get loans and you can buy houses. And it's like, oh shit, this is a possibility for me. What else is a possibility for me? And it's continuing. I wanna go so far inward because I want to know what my max potential is, right? Like and it's a process that's enjoyable for me. You know, I love living the shit out of life and seeing what else is out there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and I love the idea of like, I have the ability to like, even with my brothers, they were there when I was like fucked up and seeing that, and for them to be able to see like what is the possibility for this heroin addict that they watched like fucking ruining his life for a long period of time and it gives them the confidence to like take risks in their lives, you know what I mean, and do things in their lives. And it's the ripple effect, right? It's how much of an impact like our actions can make and our interactions with people, and like the profound effect, like our interactions and the work that we do on ourselves, and the more that we believe in ourselves, and we deliver a new message to another guy to get them to believe in themselves, and then that message gets delivered to someone else, and that ripple effect can be so profound moving forward. And people think about like how a change on a grand scale and a big scale, but the change happens in this room right now between these four people in this conversation, right? Because there's four dudes in here who genuinely care and love each other, and we'll always pump each other's tires. And five. My bad. Shout out Nico. Rich Print Shop. So, and the more that we breathe that into each other, the more belief, and then you take action and you attain something, and now you grow confidence. You're gonna in turn, there'll be another person attached to you that's going to get that belief that you're going to feed into them. And then they're gonna start to change the narrative from which they talk to themselves, and then they may take action and attain something, and then it's just that fucking ripple effect. You know what I mean? That's how we make change on a large scale.
The collective. It's
the collective.
The collective consciousness. Consciousness. You know, but hopefully it'll help happen to the 3 people that watch this podcast.
Yo, shout out, Mom.
I love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
Love everybody.
My mom doesn't.
My wife,
bad.
Sam. Shout out, Sam.
Yeah, shout out Sam.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though. So recently, I ran into an issue, and it honestly is bothering me. So I have a lifelong friend, pretty much my best friend growing up, struggling with addiction, and I had to like stop talking to him because his addiction would just keep him down. And the only way I know how is recovery. Yeah. And, you know, and I know you guys have to go through this. You get people that have been in your life, you know, your brother, I'll bring it up, but same thing with him. And, you know, I finally reached back out and said, look, I love you to death, but you go through these issues with your addiction. And I keep telling you the same thing, and you don't do it. You want to do it your way. But eventually there comes a point when I have to not answer your calls no more because you affect me. Yep. You affect me, and I have to protect myself, because every single time you call me and your world is crumbling apart and you have anxiety and you're freaking out, when I hang that phone up, I just absorbed all your energy.
Yeah.
I absorbed all that shit, and I can't do it no more, and I have to not do it. And like that bothered me because here I am, this person that like this. I've changed my life, and I've become a person, someone who helps people, and that's my calling in life, right?
Yeah.
At what point do you shut them off? You know, at what point do you stop taking the phone calls? Because I know part of recovery is you have to let people feel the pain, and they actually, I heard it before this happened. I went to a meeting, and somebody was talking about stealing someone's bottom. How true is that? Stealing people's bottom. I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
I've seen you go to trap houses, and we don't need to bring up names.
Yeah.
But I've seen you do it,
Yeah.
and I think we've all done it to a fault.
Yep.
Yeah.
But at what point do you stop and like you can't do it no more? Like that's the part that gets me. That's the struggle that I deal with, because I do have these people in my life that like they know how fucked up I was, and and I'm that beacon of light. They're like, "How did you do it? Like, help me do it." And I can't, because you won't do what I tell you that I did.
But it's not even about telling, it's just about walking. Because my thing is like, I'm willing to walk with anybody
Yeah.
on this path forward, but I'm not willing to walk backwards. You know what I mean? So for me, that's the boundary. So I will send you love. I will send you, I deeply believe in energy, to the point today where I like try to send people loving, healing energy. You'll have my
Oh, it's
full
great.
belief.
It's amazing.
Because the truth is that I know factually that anybody can do whatever they want if they believe, but they have to believe. We're on this earth, I believe, it's a spiritual belief of mine, that we're on this earth on our own path. If you want to go really deep, like I think that even some people are on a dark path because that's what they're here for sometimes. I hate to say that, but I do believe this. This is my understanding today. If we're here to raise our consciousness, then how could you ever know like the experience of being, I believe in multiple lives and all this other stuff. Let me just put that out there before I say this. But
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're in a
Well,
safe.
wanted
You're,
shot.
you're in a safe
so,
place.
but I believe that like, if you were a king in one lifetime, how could you ever identify with a beggar? So maybe you came back to be a beggar. Maybe you came back to be a heroin addict, to experience some darkness. And maybe, people lose their lives, is the truth of the matter, in darkness. But maybe that was the experience they were supposed to have while they were here, to raise their consciousness to understand that darkness.
Yeah.
So that when, and this is a deep concept, to be honest. And some people will be like, shut the hell up, dude. What the hell are you talking about? But this is my understanding today.
If you don't agree with that, tag him though.
Yeah,
on
tag
the
me.
comments.
Yeah.
Tag me.
Yeah.
Tag
Lay
me.
that on him.
Tag
Yeah.
me.
You want to
So-
jump in the rabbit hole? Get a hold of Justin.
Yeah,
Get a hold of me.
Yeah.
Reach out to Justin.
I'll go down the rabbit hole with you. I will.
No, I know
but,
you
but
will.
think about it. You know what I mean? It helps us. It helps for me to gain some understanding of where people are at and what they're going through. Because the truth is, not everybody's path here is to go to the light. It's just not. And I do believe that we're moving towards that as a mankind, that our goal is to like raise our consciousness, to live more by cooperation, to get out of these negative belief systems. But if you talk about the collective, for a very long time, mankind has been living in a competition frame of mind. And so for me, I just deeply believe in loving people and inviting them to walk this path. And I think I agree with you. The more people that join this path, it invites other people to join the path. But we're fighting hundreds of years of belief systems of people, and that say go the other way.
Yeah.
Go. You know what I mean? Go
Well-
travel down. Don't travel up.
Well, what you said, Eric, as far as like, when do you know when that transit? Because your spirit tells you that. If for me, I'm always willing to help somebody, but this is the deal, right? I look at it like we all give from the cup. Like it's
Yeah. I was just going through my head. I was actually waiting for that point.
yeah.
Like, when is it too much? When you some days you just give so much of yourself away. There's nothing left to give. Like
Yeah.
you're
But
literally you
at some-
bankrupt yourself.
Yeah.
You drink all the water out of the cup.
But there's also points where you pour from that cup, and then and the way that you get reciprocated is when actually someone is listening, and then taking the action, and then that fills the cup right back up. You get to watch a process occur,
Sure.
right? But when it's just constantly given from that cup, and someone is still, you have to come to this point where you're ready, right? And a lot of people get in a state of fear. And my mother always says this to me. She's like, first and foremost, like, God saves, not Christopher.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not solely responsible for any one outside of my children and stuff like that.
Sure.
But even they have their own lessons to learn. I won't be able to be there to stop them from going whatever they need to go through. But and people get so riddled with fear. This is why you see a lot of enabling parents, a lot of enabling friendships, because what is the first fear that you're going to think of?
They're gonna die.
They're going to
They're
die.
gonna die.
Which that is, I mean, I didn't talk to my father before he passed away for almost 2 years, and he died. And the last conversation that I had with him wasn't a good one. And like, that is a part of it. That is the risk that we take.
Yeah.
You know, but there's also like the torment that I would have felt being a part of someone's path that wasn't willing to do what we're doing. That won't do no good for us either, right? And I've been in that situation on the other end where I stayed because I thought that I was powerful enough to will someone into but how silly am I to have that mindset? Could anybody ever pull me out of a run that I didn't want to come out of?
Fuck no.
No, absolutely not. My mother tried for many years. It didn't work. It was when she finally stopped trying that it actually worked. It was when she closed the fucking, I remember where I was. It was in the middle of winter. And I could see her. She was sitting at the kitchen table with my stepfather, and I came up, and now it was like late at night, midnight, and I saw the lights turn on and the blinds were open, and then I could see that they were talking, and I was standing outside, and I see her crying, and he was sitting in the chair looking at her, and she walked up to the fucking sliding door and she closed the blinds, and locked the door, and I knew that those moments of my mother enabling me were done. And now it was on me. She told me in that point, she gave me to God, and allowed whatever my lesson or whatever my path was going to be because she could no longer carry the burden of trying to be in control, right? Because we truly can't control anything other than our attitude and our effort.
You can love someone to death.
Absolutely.
I see it all the time with parents. I talk to parents all the time.
I like that.
You know what I mean? You can love someone to death. I've literally seen it happen, just like I'm sure all of us have. But, you know, about stealing someone's rock bottom, I've literally tried to do it and it never works out. And giving, especially working in recovery, owning sober houses, working in recovery, whatever, like it's give. And it's like, if there's nothing left for you at the end of the day, I find myself short-tempered. I find myself, you know, thinking unspiritually and not like the way I should be. And no meeting sometimes is going to save me from that.
The greatest ability that we have being in recovery is availability for someone when they are ready.
Yeah.
And only when they are ready. And what I can do is be in preparation for when they are. I continue to work on myself, lead by example, right? And do the things that I would want them to do, right? Be the change that I wish to see and show, right? Because the best way that we can get somebody to come through to the other side, why it's attractive to a lot of friends that have gotten into recovery, they were like, Jesus, fucking Christina Cola got clean. I thought that kid was gonna die. You know what I mean? And it was like, well, maybe I'm sure you get that all the fucking time.
All the time. Parole officers, like,
yeah, man.
You know,
and sometimes we have to simplify it.
Yeah.
Like, when you're ready, I'm here.
The only cool part is, like, I hear a lot of guys from prison in the streets saying, if you can do it, I can do it. And I'm like, absolutely. Of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can.
My first,
especially if I did it. I don't even know how I did it.
First time I heard about you, dude, was the horror stories, right?
Yeah.
And then I met you at in person at the barbershop, shout out Rise Barbershop, their grand opening they had. And I saw you like giving out shirts and like promoting and just like talking about recovery. I'm like, no if I didn't know and hear those stories before, I never would have put two and two together.
A lot of people
right?
say that, yeah.
So that turnaround definitely inspires hoping. That's not putting you on any pedestal. Just like when I met Michelle, I was like, no way she did years in prison. And the way she spoke about you too. Because I came in, I was so closed-minded. I compared myself to other people. I wasn't relating to other people.
That's all you can do in the beginning.
And she spoke about you like you were the gentlest person. Everyone's like, hey, Eric, oh my God. Like, shit. And
he's a fucking teddy bear.
Dude,
I
and like,
every time I heard that.
and I'm so happy I never got to see that side of you, right? But to hear guys talk about Eric in Manchester helping out, I'm like, what movie is it? It's a prison movie. I think it's Shawshank Redemption. I love this saying. It's swam through a river of shit and came out clean on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And that's used to describe fucking people who've been fucking through it, and you've done it. I haven't said much this podcast, kind of.
That was good.
That was good.
My
though.
favorite
That
thing
was
I do to dudes like you're a lot of people know you and people know that I'm friends with you, and when they fuck with me, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna tell Abaj you said he was a punk. They're like, don't.
Yep.
That's my big threat. But
But
I don't know.
I'd agree with you that it's about, being the light. You know what I mean? Focusing on shining your light, and other people will be attracted to that light. It's not about telling people what to do. At the end of the day, you can tell somebody what to do till they're blue in the face. But when they see you, you know what I mean? When they can see you shine, it gives them the safety to want to shine themselves. It gives them the safety to go to a meeting that they've been, you know what I mean? That their belief system tells them is corny.
Yeah.
So it's literally just about focus. So for me today, it's just about focusing on my path. And by focusing on my path, it helps others to join the path. But the second that I want to turn it around and try to enlighten people, I'm off the path.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? You lose the path doing that. You're not, because you're an ego. You know what I mean? Which is not the point here. The point here is to allow people to be themselves. It's not even about a knowledge exchange half the time.
Oh.
It's about the safety for people to be themselves and be able to walk the path that they're supposed to. Be
Yeah.
able to admit the path they're walking, even if it's dark at times.
Yeah.
So I would say you just keep doing you know what I mean? Keep being who you are, and it'll give him the safety to take some steps at some point, hopefully.
I love that when you said your mom turned it over to God, because it's so true. Because anytime I was ever forced or like pushed to get clean, it never worked. I always AMA'd, always left. But the second I really truly surrendered and like was willing to go to any lengths, I tell guys that all the time too. They'll reach out and they'll be like, I'm not doing good. I've hit my bottom. I'm done. All right. Well, what are you willing to do? Well, I don't want to go to detox. Can I do it's they start dictating and they take their will back real quick. But 2 seconds ago, they were crying. And just like you see the guys you talked about, it's like watching a movie, right? Play it out. They come in treatment day one. They're like, no girlfriend. I'm going to not get a job. I don't care. I'm going to do everything you guys suggest. And within 2 weeks, they're like, when am I off restriction? Can I get a job? I want to go on a date with it. It's like, just take your time. I wish there was some magic 8-ball, right? That you can just be like, if you do these certain things, you shake it, and you can show them their future, because time played against me over and over again. Time wasn't quick enough. It wasn't quick enough to show me the outcome. But as soon as I could sit with self, right? Because that was the most difficult thing for me. And I learned that quick because I opened up, literature, and it said the problem of the alcoholic centers in the mind rather than the body. And this is like, I thought it was like that physical craving. That was it. No, it was the mental obsession. And once I broke the mental obsession and it was difficult for me because I played the tape back of all the horrible things I could do. But luckily, like, I gave myself time to heal, and I searched within myself. Those exterior things, that like the shiny things that make temporary happiness, like those things are nice and stuff, but like if I didn't find sense of self and somewhat of like a path of purpose, there's no way I would still be doing this. And that's between hanging out with guys with time, a bunch of different guys, and taking certain things from them and knowledge from them and having them help motivate me in certain ways. No way I'd fucking read a book fucking almost 2 years ago. No way.
You notice now it's a different demographic of the recovery. It's very young. So the way you speak, that the old school philosophies don't work as well. Like, just shut the fuck up, sit the fuck. That worked. But now it's like you got to get Tony Robbins on a motherfucker and like inspire them to get them to be intrigued or engaged in recovery. But if you adopt, it's like adapt or die, right? You have to. Especially, it's our job if you got time, if you got a year or more or whatever, like, it's the responsibility of us to pay it forward. And my thing is like, I've adapted and I like to speak to the spirit and not necessarily get too into like, you have to. It's like when you start to speak to the spirit and you can start to awaken that thing up and get people to open up their mind to new possibilities. You got to think we all come in here with this peanut-sized idea of what our lives could become. And when you start to present the counter argument to that, to someone, to start to open up the ideas that there is something way more, get them to believe in something that maybe it's that question, what do you want for yourself in your life, that a lot of people can't answer, especially when we first come in. And a lot of people may say, why are you asking a newcomer that? It's just keep it simple, keep it in the day. And I'm like, I have my own belief system, right? I believe in that. I also believe in what I believe in. I believe that we have to have a target. We have to have a goal and a direction. We have to ask that question to ourselves so we can start understanding why we are on this journey. What do we want for ourselves? Because it's a lot harder so let's, when we talk about the conversation we had many years ago, and I had many conversations with guys about what it is that I wanted. And it was while I was in the Roofers Union that I was asking myself that question. And what it was that I wanted was to become a professional dancer, right? And a lot of people know that story, but it was through the dialogue with other people that gave me a small glimpse that maybe that was a possibility, and many people telling me that I could do that, believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself, to that initial step that I could take, but to even stop for a second to believe in that could be a possibility, right? So now it's not a matter of me giving up on this job that I hated and this life that I hated. It was me giving up on a life that may be a possibility for me. And if you can get in that, if you get me to believe in that much, it's a lot better than the nothing that I was believing in prior to. So when you speak to the spirit of someone, you get to, and you have to now, with especially with people coming in there in so much pain, like, why are we doing this? And especially when you've had experiences with recovery where you can put together some time or some clean time, but it's miserable because you're not taking care of the secondary, right? We get clean. We begin a process of recovery and we get clean, but the secondary part is the development of a life worth living, right? And the identification of, like, what does that life look like, and the work that goes around that. We do the work in the recovery program and step work to get some clarity on who we are, to learn about ourselves. Because let's be honest, none of us fully know ourselves yet. Mm-hmm. We're still in a process of that, but the more we're in this journey of knowing ourselves, the more we start to understand what our possibilities and capabilities are. And that's where the journey becomes more and more exciting. It's not saying, Eric, fuck this, let's get high for this. It's making you make a decision between your already blessed life and the potential that you haven't scratched the fucking surface of yet. It's trying to get you to give up on that, right? It's trying to get Justin to give up on being a billionaire, even though he's but
I'm gonna be a billionaire.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Where'd that come from?
It's a whole different conversation, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah, you believe
but
it.
At the same note, it's gonna happen. Like, one of my driving goals with becoming a billionaire is to change the fucking world, to be honest. And it has nothing to do with the money that I want to make. It's to make money not an issue in my life. As crazy as it sounds, I want to relieve others of money issues. I want to my highest goal is to live in a different world where we're not controlled by materialism. It's a thought form of mine that I'm working towards, and ideas have come to me in meditation on how to make this happen, that I deeply believe, and that's why I believe. And so I've taken action on those ideas, and as a result, I believe those ideas are going to come to fruition with a lot of financial wealth. This is how I live my life today.
I'm gonna borrow. If you're a billionaire, you're giving me $1 million.
Me too.
Yeah,
dude,
100%. And if you don't, me and Eric show up at your house. We collect, and
we're gonna do it the right way.
We're gonna do it the right way. Yeah. With respect, class. You know what I mean?
Noble.
All right. So we usually wrap up this podcast with a last question. So I was thinking three or two books that have positively influenced your life that you would recommend to somebody coming in right now. Not necessarily, they don't have to be recovery books, any books. I know you talked about one earlier. I forget the name of that one, but
Four Noble Truths.
So we got the Four Noble Truths and we'll put some links in the description for
Anthony Robbins, Absolute Power. Hands down, one of the best books I've ever read. It coincides with recovery. There's one part in the book where it talks about neuro-linguistic programming, which is basically following the path.
Yeah.
If I do what you do, I'll get what you got. In a simpler form. And really, in recovery and in life, that's really all it's about. You have an apprentice, you have a master.
Mhm.
And the same thing goes with recovery. You have a sponsor, and you have a sponsee. Those are the keys to life, in my opinion. And those are the principles I stuck with that have brought me to where I'm at. Like, legit. I read that book, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago. I want to say it was like 2001, no, 2006, I think. I read that book in prison, and it changed my life. A lot of books changed my life, but that was one of them. Neurolinguistic programming, absolute power.
Hell yeah. It's funny. To become a master, first you must be willing to be a fool. I just read that
Absolutely, hands down.
quote. Yeah. What do you got, Justin?
The Shack.
I was gonna say
and-
that.
Sorry.
Oh,
The Shack and The Alchemist. 2 novels that are deeply spiritual, have deep spiritual meaning in them. And one other thing I'd say is watch Avatar again.
Okay.
If you watched it 10 years ago and you've evolved as a person, watch it again. Deep spiritual meaning in Avatar.
Chris, what do you got? Do you
I don't even know how to read. No,
Come on now, dig.
The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. It's got a message in there. I like that. But the A literature is what really started to change my life because it helped me understand a power greater than myself.
So the big book?
The big book, yep.
I literally was thinking about today how
It's-
I need to read the big book. It's interesting.
The big
I have
book's an
so many
amazing
copies.
book.
Oh,
it-
100%.
amazing.
I
And
know.
I'm not even like I went through the 12 steps of AA. I'm not like 12 AA all the like I'm so open to everything. Because that's what my sponsor told me to do. He's like, you do one set of steps, and if you want to do the other, go do it with someone else. But he was very old school with it, but he taught me everything I needed to know about like not everything I needed to know, but spirituality. He told me how to taught me how to sit with self. But like it's just that book literally changed my life because I thought I knew it all, and I'll never forget one of the first things he said when we met was, "Do you want to live or do you want to die?" And I said, "I want to live." He's like, "From this point on, you're going to do everything and anything I ask you to, willing to go to any lengths, and that book changed my life."
So 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson, just because I just read that recently and I love him. There's another book that completely changed me, not on a spiritual level, but on a motivation level, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oof.
That book
Fire.
was fucking incredible. It just the way the book breaks it down.
Yeah, it's so simple.
Because he's talking to him from when he was a child.
That's right.
And
right.
I
Love
needed
that
to be
book.
taught as a child, like I was a child. So like I was learning in that book at the pace that I needed to learn because that's part of the insecurity, right? The whole, I never took risks in real estate and all that because my lack of willingness to be a fool, to ask people, hey, how do I do this? You know what I mean? And that book gave me the confidence to start asking questions. And amazing book. And then obviously The Law of Success, Napoleon Hill. Really good book. There's so many good books, but The Shack, I'm gonna double down on The Shack because of the meaning of that book is so powerful. So the movie is equally as powerful. I remember I watched it with my wife, and she'd never read the book or never seen the movie, and she just looked at me at the end, sobbing her eyes out, and she was like, "What did you just do to me? What the hell?" Yeah, I set her up for a drive-by, but it's an amazing book. But
it's an amazing book, but if you're not a reader, watch the movie. But if you're a reader, read the book.
The book is
because
incredible.
your imagination allows you to internalize it exactly how you want to see it. So where in the movie, if God isn't a certain person to you, you might be like, I know a few people who have rejected the movie because it doesn't fit with their visual description of what things are. Yeah. So the book will absolutely allow you to do that.
Absolutely. But that's it. Thank you, Eric, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You're the man, Eric.
Absolutely.
Love you, brother.
Love you. Chris.
Love you.
Chris,
I just want to let you know you did a fantastic job today.
Yeah.
Your arms look extra big in that shirt. Your face is extra handsome.
The compliments are killing me.
It's just all around good job today.
Thanks,
That's
buddy.
it. Peace.